pride, wrath, sloth, greed, lust, gluttony, envy. Today we're not naming players because of talent or trophies. We're naming them for the thing that defined them, the sin they live in cleats. These are 7 footballers who didn't just play the game, they became it. Pride, André Onana. Pride isn't the same as confidence. Confidence lifts you. Pride makes you blind. André Onana arrived at Manchester United like a one-man highlight reel. A goalkeeper who could pass like a midfielder, brave with the ball at his feet, the kind of keeper modern tactical setups salivate over. He had the training ground audacity, the Instagram swagger, and the sort of personality managers buy into when they want a leader between the sticks. When Onana first strode onto the Old Trafford turf, people compared him to the new wave of ball-playing keepers, the ones who start attacks and read the game like midfielders. He took the ball, turned, threaded passes that split defenses. For a while, that confidence was his currency. It bought him praise and plaudits and 3-line headlines. But pride is a dangerous currency. It convinces you that risk is style, that danger equals genius. One risky pass that goes wrong becomes a cost, then a pattern. The miscontrol here, the misjudged run there. Suddenly, supporters are no longer applauding the audacity. They're counting the cost. Memes spread faster than match reports. A goalkeeper's mistakes are magnified because they are so often game-defining. What makes this tragic isn't lack of talent. Onana has the technique, the reflexes, the range. What he lacked was humility at the moment it mattered, the willingness to choose the safe option, the simple clearance, the basic claim. Pride taught him to always dazzle. Football taught him to sometimes be boring. It's a brutal lesson for a modern keeper. When confidence turns to spectacle, you stop being a solution and start being a problem. And when the margin for error is 0, pride becomes the thing that costs goals, points, and sometimes the faith of the crowd. Wrath, João Felix. Wrath is explosive. It's not just anger, it's anger that shapes decisions and eats away at careers. João Felix arrived with velvet feet and a headline fee, a teenage wunderkind who carried the weight of expectation like a cloak. Atletico Madrid paid big because a club that built itself on chaos and fight wanted something beautiful inside the machine. But Atletico's machine runs on discipline and sacrifice. Felix wanted art and a blank canvas. That mismatch is where wrath begins. When a manager asks you to track back and you refuse, when a club wants shirtless battle and you want to dance, frustration breeds. Substitutes, tactical rebukes, benches, each moment became grain in a slow burn. Felix's reaction was not a calm rework of his game. It was sulking, gestures, a hot edge in interviews, a simmering attitude. And when a player who feels misunderstood decides to respond, he often chooses revenge rather than evolution. Loans brought promise of reset but delivered the same pattern. Chelsea saw flashes, and flashes often come with a temper. Barcelona gave him the stage to thumb his nose. He celebrated against his parent club in ways that told stories. Each cameo and misstep added to a narrative, a talent burning for reasons not always within his control, stoked by a desire to prove wrong those who doubted him. Wrath doesn't let you quiet your critics, it makes you louder. It convinces you that the world is against you, so you become your own agent of conflict. For João Felix, the talent remains. There are moments where the old fluidity returns, where he flicks and floats through spaces like nothing has happened. But until the rage becomes motivation rather than reaction, the fight will always be external, and the results will always be inconsistent. Wrath turns talent into testimony, not a testament to greatness, but to grievance. And grievances, in football, cost you continuity. Sloth, Marcus Rashford. Sloth in sport doesn't mean not training. It means the quiet corrosion of hunger. Marcus Rashford's story begins in a way that makes scriptwriters smile. Local kid, debut goals, hero status, and an advocacy off the pitch that made him larger than the game. He became a symbol, for his city, for a generation, for causes that mattered. Early on, he was relentless. Speed, craft, an ability to change a game in a heartbeat. So when the performances dulled, people noticed the gap like a missing tooth. It wasn't always a decline of ability. It was vanishing intensity. A winger who used to tear past fullbacks now drifting into space, passive against pressing. Off-field life certainly complicated things. With fame came obligations, endorsements, causes, distractions, all the soft padding that dulls sharp edges. But the core thing was simpler, the hunger dimmed. You see this often in modern football. Players who climb by sprinting start walking. Not because they can't run, but because the reason they ran is no longer urgent. Rashford has never been without skill. He still finds the back of the net. He still arrives in big moments. But sloth is not a permanent switch, it's a slow weathering. That's what makes it so dangerous. Fans say he's become comfortable. Coaches say the load has changed. Everyone agrees the risk is that comfort becomes preference. Worse, sloth invites narrative. Social media amplifies the moment a player parties after a heavy defeat, or congratulates themselves on weak weekends. Perception hardens into truth. For Rashford, the skill remains, and there's still room to reclaim the hunger. But sloth proves that talent alone doesn't sustain greatness, only relentless appetite does. If anything, Rashford's story is a reminder. The hardest opponent a gifted player faces is not the defender, it's the quiet negotiation with themselves to keep wanting it, year after year. Greed, Ashley Cole. Greed is a simple ledger, wanting more when you already have much. Ashley Cole's arc reads like a case study in the collision between loyalty and opportunity. At Arsenal, he rose through the ranks, became world-class, and was part of a side that wrote its name into history. He had trophies, status, and the kind of love that turns players into legends. Yet when money and recognition come knocking, loyalty can be tested. Contract negotiations became a rupture, a choice that felt small at its core but huge in cultural consequence. Switch to the rival across town, accept the contract that validates your market value, and suddenly your journey becomes a headline about motives not merits. Cole didn't fall because he wanted more. He fell because the conversation changed. Fans saw the move as transactional betrayal. Others saw it as a professional choosing to be fairly compensated. In sport, nuance rarely survives the first chant. Ashley Cole stuck because it fit a narrative that fed tribalism. The cost of greed is reputational and often slower than the cost of failure. You win trophies and bank balances, but you lose portions of the emotional legacy that fans hold dear. Being remembered as brilliant and greedy is a complicated fate. Cole's footballing record is elite. That isn't erased by a contract. But in the memory economy of football, motive becomes as important as mastery. Greed in football is not only about money. It's about the hunger for validation, for a place in history, for being recognized on your terms. That hunger can win you trophies, but it can also rewrite how those trophies are read. Lust. Kyle Walker. Lust in this context is broader than romance. It's the craving for excess, thrills, escape, attention. Kyle Walker is an odd mirror for modern temptation. On the pitch, his exemplary pace, physicality, reliability, the archetypal elite fullback who wins trophies with the machine that is his club. Off it, however, his life has been a series of headlines that read like a cautionary tale. When desire turns into pattern, it becomes messy. Affairs, secret lives, breaking rules, not as a single act but as an ongoing narrative of chasing what shouldn't be chased. Walker's story is that of a man living on two tracks, professional discipline by day and personal recklessness as if rules applied elsewhere. That duality is instructive. Some players implode publicly and their game collapses. Others codify boundaries so well that their form remains untouched. Walker's football did remain elite. He continued to start big matches, rack up trophies, and keep his level on the pitch. But lust wanted attention beyond the stadium, and when the tabloids consume you, the quiet things in life, family, reputation, stability, become collateral. This sin is less about morality than about the destabilizing effect of addiction to novelty. The craving, again and again, takes the player away from presence. He can perform perfectly in 90 minutes, but his life becomes fragments. That fragmentation matters, because football isn't just the 90 minutes, it's the narrative around the player that shapes transfers, fan love, and legacy. Lust here reads as a warning. Being the best on the pitch doesn't inoculate you from making your life a story of mistakes. Gluttony. Diego Maradona. Gluttony means excess in everything, consumption without limit. Diego Maradona lived at the extremes. On the field he was mythic, every touch exaggerated, every feint a small revolution. He made Napoli a kingdom and Argentina a nation of believers. But gods, almost by definition, are dangerous to be around. Maradona consumed applause, fame, nightlife, substances, and attention with equal relish. The line between ecstasy on the pitch and self-destruction off it blurred. At Naples he was adored, the team's identity wound around his genius. Outside of it he was vulnerable. Excess covered parts of the man that hurt. Here's the cruelty. His greatest highs and his deepest lows were powered by the same engine. If Maradona had tempered his appetites, would the picture be different? Maybe. But that question neglects the reason people loved him. The same intensity that destroyed him also produced miracles. It's almost impossible to separate the art from the artist. Gluttony's final act is costing you what made you special. With Maradona, it was health, career length, and public peace. Yet paradoxically, his excess made him eternal in the public imagination. People remembers both the world-class goals and the tragic slide that followed. The lesson is harsh. Devouring life's offerings can grant you mythic status, but the bill always comes due. Maradona paid it with years, health, and a complicated legacy that still divides the world. Envy. Why? Terry Butcher. Envy is quieter. It doesn't rage or consume, it lingers. Terry Butcher's story is one of sacrifice and near-miss immortality. He was the archetype of English grit, a captain who bled for the shirt, literally, bandaged, bloodstained, unbowed. He gave everything. Then Maradona happened. 2 moments. The hand of God. The goal of the century. History is, unfairly sometimes, a single frame. For Butcher, an entire career of valor was compressed into an image that belonged to another man. The result wasn't hatred, it was envy, a hollow recognition that despite giving your all, the narrative chose someone else. This is the sin of countless athletes. Your best isn't always enough to be the remembered one. The world awards immortality for wonder, not always for work. Butcher's envy is human. The ache of watching a rival become legend while your own heroic toil becomes footnote. It's a reminder that envy isn't evil, it's an honest, aching measure of our desire to be remembered. It's what fuels some to chase more, and what makes others bitter, quietly or loudly. If you liked this dive into football's darker mirror, hit like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments, which of these sins do you see most in the game today? Until next time, this was the 7 deadly sins as footballers.